Alrighty, Mr. Nelson here with Aerospace. And so one last video I want to show you about this wire stripper tool. It's like a magic tool, all the things that this would do. I got one more thing to show you that I think you're going to be amazed at about this tool. And so I'm going to flip the camera down, but again, safety glasses on because there are going to be flying parts. This time there's going to be flying metal. So be careful with this, all right? So I'm going to flip this down. There we go. Okay, so on this particular tool, we've already gone through this section right here where you can cut wire. We did that at the very beginning. Then we stripped our wire down here using the wire. And we crimped our connectors on using up here. So this tool we've cut, stripped, crimped. Now, what is this stuff up here, these holes? This is where this tool is really cool. You can use this for different things. These are for cutting bolts. That's right, cutting bolts. So we have the different size here, 832, 1024, 1032, 632, and 440. Okay. Just a real quick lesson here. The 8, the 10, the 10, the 6, the 4, that is the thickness or the diameter of the bolt. So I've got two different sizes here. And as you notice, the larger the number, the larger the size, the smaller the number, the smaller the size. So a number 4 hole is much smaller than a number 10 hole. So that just refers to a machinist number for that particular sizing. Now, the next number, the 24 and the 32, or the 32, the 40, the 32 right there. That refers to the number of threads on this bolt per inch. So this particular bolt right here is a 1032. So if I measure an inch on here and count the number of threads in between that 0 and right there on 1 inch, there would be 24 threads per inch. Now this particular bolt right here, this one is a 632. This has more threads per inch than this bolt does. I don't know if you can see that, if the camera's fine enough to show that, or if you're able to determine that in there. But this bolt right here, the 632, has a finer thread count per inch than this bolt. All right, so that's sort of important as you use this tool. So I picked these two because I know that they fit in here. So how this works is, on this side of the wrench, this side, there's threading in there. On this other side, there's no threading. If you notice and look through there, there's no threading on that side. But on this side, there is threading. So when I take my 632, I'm able to thread it in there on this side. And if I line this up on the back correctly and open it up just right, I can be able to thread that through. I can pull that back. Now that threads through there. Now if I come in the other way, that's just loose in there. It's not threaded through. So that's an important thing to remember. What side is threaded, what side is not. So how is this used? Let's say I want to go in, this is a 1 inch bolt right there. The threading right there is 1 inch. I need it to be 3/4 of an inch because if that head is sticking up too far, it gets in the way. So what I can do is I'm going to measure this down to be able to cut this. And I'll show you how we cut it in here. This section right there is about 1/10 of an inch. So I'm going to actually mark this 1/4 plus 1/10 of an inch. So 35/100ths of an inch down. So I just made a little mark there, about 35/100ths of an inch down. So now again, I'm going to thread this in. Let me show you another trick before I even do this one. Well, I'll do this one, then I'll show you another trick after I'm done. So now I'm going to thread this on. It's in that 632. And I'm going right to where my mark is. Now, all I need to do is I'm going to put this handle down and I'm going to push down with my other hand on top here. And can you see that with the camera? There you go. And now I've cut that off. This is my piece of FOD. Now this is the bolt that I want to keep at that right size. Now what I tend to do is I'm going to go forward a little bit just to give it a twist, and then I come back. This part is really important to do it this way, that this has gone back through the threading in there. So that way it's recutting the threads as it's going back through, so that when you want to take your nut and put it back on there, it can be reinstalled on there. Another trick you can do to make it even more positive is you can put the nut on there to start off with, pull the nut all the way back. Now I take my magic wire cutters. I'm going to push this through. This one I'm not marking. I'm just sort of eyeballing where I want this one to be cut. Tighten this up some more. Now we're coming out the back there. Okay, so now same thing. Just going to push it down. Cut that off. Take that piece, throw it in my FOD tray. Now I can take this out. It's recutting the threads. Whoops. The nice thing about this one is that I already have the nut on there, so now I can make sure that when I come back through, I know it's sort of tough to see there, it's pretty small, but when I come back through, this is going to recut the threads again. So making sure that I can do that and be able to start this up again. So there we go. So that is what these are used for. I can even do a 1024, which is this size right there. Yep. So that's a 1032. This is a 1024. There we go. I'm going to do this one with the bolt already on the back, on the nut, excuse me. So I have the nut on there. I have the pulling that through. This one's going to be a little tougher because it's heavier gauge. Get that out of the way. So pushing down. There we go. Be able to pull that back. And now being able to take the nut across there, and there I can restart it again. So now I've been able to cut that down to a proper size. If I don't have the right size, I can use my wire stripper. This is something you're going to use quite a bit, a lot more than you may think. That bolt cutter, I use it all the time on different projects. So as you are getting your own apartment set up or your own house set up or just where you're living right now, helping your folks out, you're going to be using that tool more than you realize. It's pretty amazing. All right, that's the last of the videos on the wire stripper and using that, but that's a pretty useful thing to be able to learn how to do. If you have some bolts at home, go ahead and practice that to see if you can be able to cut some bolts like that off. All right. Good job, Aerospace.